How's it going, sports hitless fans? This is Christian the Goon from the AEW Injection, alongside my co-host here, Zach Droll, Zach the Outlaw of Long Island Droll.
Yes.
I'm mistaken.
Remember, it's the pro wrestling injection. We got
Pro
that
Wrestling Injection.
that
I'm still
cease
getting
and
used to it.
desist.
Yeah, we're getting the cease and desist from. I'm not a bot. I'm not a bot.
From Khan himself.
Yep. But yeah, we're here to talk about today the legacy of probably basically the past 6 years of Cody Rhodes. Ever since he left, he got his release from the WWE, and basically he became a globetrotter for about 6 years until he finally returned to WWE this past WrestleMania 2 weeks ago. So we're here to talk about. We're going to do a little brief overview legacy episode. Just talking mainly about Cody Rhodes here. So as we start out here, I just want to acknowledge the fact of when he got released. Who would have thought that anything that we would have received after his release would have transpired? One of the most important, one of the most um, engaging, and one of the most shocking releases ever, and probably one of the most beneficial releases to the wrestling business, maybe ever. Maybe this is the one of the greatest like releases of all time, just due to what he did afterwards.
It's like a lot of us going into Cody getting released thought it was going to be a work. We all had this feeling, oh, he's gonna, because when we saw, oh, TK Tony Khan buys ROH. There you go. Cody's gonna run the head of that, and he's gonna lead an invasion angle probably. Try to do a better invasion angle if he wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
It just felt weird. Like it's like Cody, like he said straight up, WWE did this to me. They did that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like him. And he said that on air. He broke the throne on air.
Yep. The AEW, the departure from AEW, and even the release in the beginning. Who would have thought like any of this would happen after he got released back in 2016? So bridging that, we go into what he did afterwards. After he got released, immediately, the guy. If you knew this, if you know like a little bit the intricacies of the story, basically when you see him and Kevin Owens interact in WWE now, it's going to be really cool because Kevin Owens is the one who called the Young Bucks and said, "Hey, listen, Cody's leaving. Cody's, you guys are going to love him. Please look out for him." So that's what basically started the Cody and the Young Bucks type of partnership. It was through Kevin Owens, but basically when he released first few years, I'd say 2000, probably late 2016 to 2017, he appeared in Impact Wrestling a few times. But he appeared on the British Indies a lot. He had a lot of great matches on the British Indies. One against Kurt Angle that was very well received. But mainly it was his big first step. His really coming out of I'm not just a WWE guy is when he went to New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And he joined, even before he even had a match, he joined the Bullet Club. They put out a vignette of him smoking, as you could see. That would become a trend with Cody Rhodes throughout the years. But he came right into the Bullet Club right at when the Bullet Club was at its hottest.
Yeah.
So Kenny just had the match. Well, actually, no, he didn't. Kenny was about to have the match with Okada. The Young Bucks were gaining traction on the Indies and in New Japan. A lot of stuff was happening, and just really he came in at such the right time. But yeah, he did. He ended up going to New Japan. He had his first match against Juice Robinson at Wrestle Kingdom 11, the same night where Kenny and Okada happened, and he had a nice little run for himself in New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, so like with like him like joining the Bucks, like I think the moment he showed up on BTE. That's when BTE skyrocketed in views. That's when the Bullet Club became a household name.
Yep.
Like for me, I started watching BTE before Cody joined. I think that was right after Omega and Okada. I was like, okay, gonna start watching. Then Cody joined, and then that's when the us versus them mentality started.
Yeah.
And like that was awesome because it was like, yeah, WWE is okay, but it could be better.
Moving off the New Japan stuff. So right after the New Japan and Cody thing ended is right when he started to feel it. You started to feel like the tides were turning in some way. Basically what happened was they say that, well, before even that, here comes All In. We do All In. The Bucks, the biggest indie show of all time, that basically a Bucks, Cody and Kenny creation of All In. Um, Basically spawned out of a tweet from just a random person and Dave Meltzer. Cody accepted that challenge, and here comes All In, one of the greatest shows ever, and just an excellent moment for pro wrestling. That ended up being the genesis for what we know now as AEW.
And it's an amazing pay per view. Like, sure, if you take out the Joey Ryan stuff, it's still a stellar pay per view. That even though that moment is hysterical, Hangman doing the beach break or the dead eye through the tables, amazing spot.
Yep. And the match with Kenny and Penta and Okada ended up being on that show when he was Balloon Okada. But anyway,
and Kenny and Nick Atlas.
Yeah, Nick Aldis. Well, Cody and Nick Aldis, excuse me. But anyway, basically that became the genesis of AEW, and so basically we're gonna skip a little bit. What brings us right to AEW, the birth of AEW, the idea, the brainchild of the Bucks, Kenny, Cody, and Tony Khan. So here comes AEW. We start setting up. They announced it in Japan at the Tokyo Dome. That was one of the biggest exoduses of New Japan history, probably the second big exodus, with Cody, Kenny, the Bucks, Trent and Chuck. They left as well. But basically that happened. So here comes AEW. Then Double or Nothing is announced by then. AEW and Double or Nothing are both announced on January 1st. So they don't have a TV deal yet. They don't have TV yet, but Double or Nothing is just one of the greatest shows that you'll ever see. It was basically the AEW's first ever pay-per-view, and what was widely regarded as the best match on that show, Cody Rhodes versus Dustin Rhodes, brother versus brother. It was a complete bloodbath. It was one of the greatest AEW matches to this day.
I still get chills watching that because I watched that live. I made sure I was working that night, got home immediately after. I was okay, turn on Fight, watch it, and I was like, this is amazing.
Yep.
Because especially like the entrance of Cody coming down, and Brandy gets into the ring, grabs the sledgehammer, and Cody goes up and he smashes. She says, just tear it down. Because Cody was just like, he was someone who made a name for himself, and he bet on himself.
Yep. That's what you got to do, and he did it in spades. So then they get a TV deal. They do Fyter Fest, which another one of the best matches on AEW, probably one of my favorite. It was the coming out party, and it was the first time a lot of people were exposed to Darby Allin at Fyter Fest. That Darby versus Cody match is Fyter Fest, one of my favorite AEW matches, because it's the first time ever really anyone ever saw Darby Allin. I mean, people saw him on the Indies, but this is where Darby went from here to, who is this guy? Who is Darby Allin? Cody did a great job making him. They went to a time limit draw, which still was uncommon back then. So this was a really cool match. The fast forward, then he got All Out. Then after that, TV starts. Cody Rhodes has the first ever TV match with another guy he puts over that ended up being his first AEW televised match and his last AEW televised match with Sammy Guevara. And look how far Sammy has come in that time. So Cody has really helped a lot of guys in AEW. So we're just going to give a brief overview, because we talked to death on the injection about Cody and in AEW. We have these vast logs of you could hear our thoughts about Cody, but we're just going to give a brief overview here about guys he put over. Sammy Guevara in the ladder match, his last match. Even Malachi Black, even if it was kind of a so-so feud, it wasn't a good feud at all, but the guy he still put over a guy in Anthony Ogogo. He made him look like a good talent. Anthony Ogogo. I remember he had the match with Chris Jericho at the first ever Full Gear for the world title, which he lost, which barred him from challenging for the AEW title ever again. Then the MJF feud with the 10 Lashes segment and MJF beating him, just such a great feud. He ended up having the little mini feud he had with Andrade with the flaming table. He had a bunch of smaller end feuds with, I mean, like QT Marshall and stuff within the Nightmare family and people he's helped.
And if you look at like past the feuds, like guys he helped Fuego get over.
Fuego ended up getting signed basically because of Cody too.
If it was just only on like Sammy's vlogs, Cody helped Fuego like really develop and get himself over.
Yep, and you can't forget Cody winning the TNT title, being the first ever TNT champion, and then losing the belt in magnificent fashion to Mr. Brody Lee. Rest in peace. He one of the greatest squash matches I've ever seen. Based off of Vader and Inoki from New Japan, but Brody took the title off him, and then Cody won it back from Brody in Brody Lee's last match in the dog collar match, which I've never seen before because that's a very old stipulation. But Cody doing that, and then as we already said, the ladder match with the Cody Sammy's cutter off the ladder and the crossroads off the ladder, just crazy spots, and that ended up being Cody's swan song from AEW. But even all his promos and everything, Cody was such an integral force in pro wrestling over the last 6 years, and just really, really gonna be when he's done wrestling, he's gonna say that we're gonna look back at this guy and be like, wow, Cody Rhodes was really one of the greats, and look how much this guy did. The pro wrestling industry and the pro wrestling business is a lot better off due to Cody Rhodes, with Cody Rhodes instead of without him. If he stayed in WWE, we would have never had any of this. So I'm very grateful to Cody Rhodes and what he did after he left and during the 6 years.
And now if we just like kind of jump to present day.
Yeah.
With WrestleMania, like, there was big talk. Like a lot of us, like we came to terms. He's done with AEW. Comes into WWE to probably what is the biggest crowd he's been in front of since the Dallas Mania. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing. Like he's welcomed home, and if he finishes his career in WWE, I don't care. I'm happy for him. He started it there. He can end it there.
He made himself a star, and he did so much for the wrestling business and helped so many people along the way. And that's really all you can ask for somebody. So that concludes our little legacy episode on Cody Rhodes. You can follow Zach at
Dark Shadows 8, literally everywhere.
You can follow me at twitch.tv/xgoonx. I believe it's still that. Because I don't really use my social media that often, besides personal use. But you can follow our Instagram at the Pro Wrestling Injection, Pro Wrestling _Injection. Yeah. You can follow our TikTok, and you follow Sports Hit List on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and Instagram. So look out for all new Sports Hit List content. I mean, we have our show tomorrow, or today, whenever this is being posted. The Pro Wrestling Injection live right after AEW Dynamite, always at 10. We're going to talk about it. Basically, always an hour or so. We give a good recap and review on the show. So, and tomorrow,
and the best chemistry you can ever have.
The best chemistry, me, Zach, and Nick, who's not with us today, but we can't wait for Dynamite tomorrow. We got a great card: Suzuki versus Joe, Punk versus Penta. So some great stuff on the horizon. So I thank you for watching a little Cody Rhodes Legacy, and take care, everybody.